And but if I feel comfortable about it, I'll say this is what I know. And then sometimes I'll get a question or suggestion. They send, and sensei, can we do it this way or do it that way? I said, let's give it a try. Like I said before to Wari Sensei, I would say, hey, we can try what you're going to suggest here, but let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, let's throw it away. If it does work, I might consider having part of the evolution process. So, I feel like my members they look to me for direction and help, but I also gain a lot from them. And that helps me, motivates me to go into the dojo because I started to, especially the last few years, realize the importance of that.
Yeah. Uh, we, it, you put me in mind of my own situation, and that there was definitely some reciprocity. I mean, I'm very lucky to have some really cool students. I myself, I only have only a small number of students, but I have a great, and I'm friends with all of them, and they constantly inspire, challenge at times. But like yourself, the ability to actually say, I don't know, but let's find out together is a hugely powerful statement, and we don't hear that enough. I think in life, people are frightened to talk about their vulnerabilities. I want to touch, if we may, on your visit in November when we happened to be there. Just your impressions of Okinawa. Was it your first time? Had you been there before? Perhaps you had quite an intensive training schedule. Um, what were your thoughts prior to going? Whilst you were there, and I guess now in retrospect, with some time and distance, kind of reflecting back on that, what's your before, during, and after thoughts?
Well, before, you know, I had conversations with Kanto Sensei and all those who were going to Okinawa and said, we're not going there to show off or and try to impress. We're going there to learn and be open, and that was the intent. Not too long before that, my brother passed away in September, so he was age 58. So the time in Okinawa, I had a lot of I had a lot of mixed feelings about being in Okinawa. It was a amazing experience, but it was a very, had that in my heart.
Yes.
And visiting the different dojos was an amazing experience. What I learned too, that I wanted to not be have the mindset of judging, but I realized that I was judging, and then I felt bad about judging this. And then I realized, wow, these are amazing senseis. I should have never judged. You don't know them until you actually train in their dojo, and they were just amazing. Every dojo was just a unique and amazing experience. And you know, I don't know what to say, but I had no sleep there. I don't know about you, Tawari Sensei, but I was working on 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night, and so very emotional. I mean, I've traveled before in my job where I've been away from home many times, and Joe Murray was like, maybe you're homesick. I'm like, no, I've traveled before and been away from home. I just think it was just being in such a foreign land, and I felt like I've been there before and I should be there, but I shouldn't be there. It was very strange. So it was a up and down roller coaster ride in Okinawa, and we had all these kind of high hopes of meeting this high ranking sensei. Then we went into the Asato dojo, and we were just renting some space. Wanted to rent some space. Didn't realize that of course some sensei was going to teach, and you were going to teach, and met you, and you were watching us work out, and you made a comment to me that I hope you don't mind me stealing a little bit. And just so you know, I'm in a point where someone said that to me years ago. Budo is all about stealing technique. I'm in a point where I want to give. If I'm pointing it out, if I'm showing it and doing kata in front of you, that means I'm giving it if you want it. Some people don't want it, and that's fine. But when I attended your seminar, I got to tell you something. That was one of the highlights because the first time in a long time with your indigenous martial art, your art had, I haven't actually um seen something or witnessed something that actually brought a tear to my eye since Sakukai Sensei, when I first seen him perform back in 1981 or 82.
Mm.
When you would speak about your culture and that there's deep purpose in the technique, and not only the technique as far as um, your people and the reasons why, and um, you know, the handing down of this beautiful art from generations. And you're singing. I didn't understand what you were saying, but I felt like my spirit did. And
Oh,
I
thank
want
you.
to tell you that I want to thank you because you got me through a hard time.
Oh, thank you. A beautiful compliment, and thank you so much. It was a privilege to have you there. I have to say that when you were one of the first people to enroll, and I was so nervous. I was so nervous again, having such well experienced, high ranking martial artists, and just have some incredible people there watching and participating was pretty amazing. I noted really quickly how fast you picked it up. I'm going, yeah, there's something different about your karate and the way that you picked it up, and the way that you committed to it. You could see that you'd done a lot of training in empty hand because your fluidity was really evident really fast.
Oh,
But thank
thank
you
you.
for that. I appreciate that. And we didn't have enough time to really sit down and yak as much as I had hoped, but that was cool. I think one
I
thing
think the
which is really,
mindset, Sensei, do you mind if I cut in real quick? I
please,
think
please.
besides the physicality of what we do, what you were teaching more was the purpose, the heart, the passion, the spirit that I had forgotten was so important. You know, you can know all the techniques you want, but you know, if your head's not in the right place, Keon, there was a famous quote with Keon. I know I'm not saying it right, but it's not your Budo is not going to work. So, but that's what you reminded me of. But please excuse me.
No, no, no. But that's a hugely, that's a huge, that is a huge compliment, and I take that very seriously. So, thank you so much. It was an honor to have you in the seminar. But guess what? We're not here to talk about me. I thank you for that. I thank you for your kind words. And I did know that you had a recent bereavement. We spoke about that, and my condolences now, and I think I expressed them then. It's at once a foreign place, but it's at once a familiar place.
Mm.
And so, you know, when you're saying, I've never had a problem sleeping, and I didn't have a problem sleeping in Okinawa, I have to say. I was very, very tired, but there was a there is a sense of, my gosh, returning to the source,
Mm.
and being sort of walking down these streets and going, oh my gosh, you know, these guys that we
And
read about
the
could have
people
walked
there
down
are
the street.
so amazing.
Yeah.
The Okinawan people are so beautiful. They
Mm,
really are. I
mm.
just really, yeah, I just had a huge. It was more than the Budo. I mean, they were just so nice, and I don't know what to say. That was just life changing for me.
Mm. It was really cool too when I was at their Sato and you guys were training, and it wasn't kind of, you kind of wandered in and sort of just threw a few kicks and did a couple of kata. I mean, that was a really disciplined um, uh, session that you were doing, which stood out to me, and I could see that you were both solidifying some things in students, but also working some things out, getting an opportunity to detail. Now, having some distance from your experience and time in Okinawa, what are the reflections? How did you come? What did it give to your training when you got back? I mean, I suppose, you know, traveling those sort of distances is always an extremely tiring experience.
Mm.
But after the tiredness kind of ceased, what has it given to your experience as a teacher and as a student?
Well, my time in Okinawa, I felt like almost like a part of me died, and there was a rebirth. And it also reminded me when I attended your seminar and other seminars with Olaf Carlson and the other Okinawan senseis there. what was like, what was the most enjoying part of my Budo journey was the very first time I walked into a dojo and stepped on the floor as a white belt, that Shoshin type of mindset. And so when I go to a new seminar from a sensei that has something totally new and different, and I feel like that feeling is all over again, and I love that feeling. It's like being a child and stepping outside for the first time, and or seeing snow for the first time, and you know what I mean. It's just like a new experience, and so I'd like to put myself and go to different seminars, um, to train with different artists that maybe, or different arts I have never done before, to kind of test my limits, not to kind of take a detour from what we're doing, but just to have a high level. Okay, this is how they approach it differently, and this is where they're going with this, and how can we better understand what we're doing with what, kind of like what they're doing. But I also do it just because I love the feeling of being brand new again. I love that feeling. So, and I encourage that with a lot of my members who are in the intermediate stage and advanced stage. I think beginner stage, again, they're at the shoe process. They're just learning the basics and katas. Don't encourage it at the beginning, but when they're intermediate advanced, I do encourage them to get exposed to different martial arts. It's not going to offend me if they want to train somewhere else or go to different seminars. And I invite them to come to seminars with me, and go on the mat. And I'm a white belt just like that. They are. And I just enjoy that feeling.
Yeah, I feel in a similar way. Um, with Okinawa, what was really cool was to be there without an agenda, in the sense that
Yes.
usually when you go, it's like you go to the dojo, you find somewhere to eat, you go back to the dojo, you come out, you eat, you go to bed, you get some sleep, clean your gi, and rinse and repeat for however long you're there. So it was nice to kind of move around and sort of be exposed to different instructors and different experiences. I was very lucky that Pat McGill Sensei, who is a mentor, a friend, and an incredible karate and kobudo practitioner, was kind enough to introduce me to his sensei, Shinzato Sensei. And so I spent a couple of sessions training with Shinzato Sensei.
Is that
And
the
what I
Shorinryu?
saw, yes.
The Shaba,
And
the Shaba Shorinryu?
yes, I
Kishaba?
believe so. I could have,
Yeah,
yes,
he's
Kishabajuku, I
amazing.
think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I was very lucky that Pat Sensei and my brother Josh Simmer Sensei were kind enough to include me in those sessions. And what I experienced with Shinzato Sensei was I didn't know how he was doing what he was doing, but I liked the fact that it was out there and that it was actually achievable. His economy of motion and movement, and how he articulated his karate and the effectiveness of it, and just sort of some of the principles that he was embodying. I still don't know. I still have a vague understanding of what I have an understanding of what he was doing, but not of how he did it.
Mm.
So and that for me, probably much like yourself, going to Okinawa was good because it clarified for me what I want the rest of my journey to be.
Mm.
And it was very clear to me that you were having this large body of knowledge, accumulated over decades of toil and sacrifice and hard work, going to Okinawa, and just your sort of general openness, and just the quality of your students and the quality of your colleagues was evident from the beginning. I hope I'm gonna try and do my best to get over to Delaware sometime and come and
Oh,
train with
please.
you guys. That would be
Now, I
cool.
will tell you that you could stay with us, but my wife and I are very short people, so probably the bed that you're sleeping in, your legs will be hanging off. This is kind of like Hobbit land in Delaware, just so you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So if you're okay with that,
yeah.
you got a place here.
Well, I'm 6'4", but remember, my dad was
And I'm
5'3".
5'2", so
Yeah,
at least you got a foot off the.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, I guess sort of in finishing, before we finish our interview, I
I,
want to just ask to those sensei out there to whoever's listening to this. I mean, it's a sensei and students. I guess I want to ask you your advice on, when you're a student, predominantly a student, you're not teaching. Your job is pretty clear cut. Turn up to the dojo, put your gear on, train, go home, practice, come back. I think there's a certain, for me, I'm 52, and I think I had a sparring session yesterday, and I thought that I was going to need CPR after it. I sparred with one of my friends, and he's very good, and he's younger than me, fitter than me. We were both blowing pretty hard at the finish of a sparring session, but I'm a much better actor than him. So I was going, I think we have to get a stretcher for the old guy. So with that in mind, what's your prescription for longevity in terms of keeping the love up for what you do and keeping the passion up for doing this thing that we love so much?
definitely train for your age. So I have a member in our dojo now that I used to train with years ago. He's 65. He's in great shape, but he's doing his kata like we were back in the dojo when he was in his 20s again. And everything he's going like 150%. And so I constantly have to remind this gentleman that, you're not, those days are, it's great, but you got to recognize where you are now. The other thing too is recognize where you are, adjust, adapt. And one of the things I'm using with this gentleman is, hey, you know what? I know you're used to doing Shorinryu katas this way, but how about we do Shorinryu katas this class like it's almost Tai Chi slow to kind of teach him to slow down. Or how about we do our Wansu kata like it's a Gojuru kata, very intense with deep breathing. To teach him the different aspects that you don't have to do kata the same way. The other thing too, I try to kind of share with my members is that remember when you first wanted to train, and then every year, make it the new year, ask yourself a question: why am I going to train? Why am I going to continue? Because sometimes we think we forget, why we do what we do, why we love what we love. And maybe those reasons do change, and that's okay. But I am fortunate to train with people that I've new people who've never trained with me before, but also people who've known me since the 80s. And they see that my style of teaching is definitely different from back then as a student and a senpai to now. That I'm able to teach in all different levels, from a 13-year-old teenager all the way up to an age 99, and adjust my teaching to the person, because I want to be able to help them get to that age 99 and still train, and I want to try to get there too. But also, besides the physical training, the depth of the training, and what you remind me about during my time meeting you and training with you is the heart and the passion is part of it as well, and not to forget that as well. Otherwise, it's sort of empty.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there's a really wise words, understanding the why of what you do and why you're doing it. I think that for me as a young man, I started out because I was trying to exercise demons. And unfortunately, at certain points, the demons were exercising me, I'm sure.
Same.
Yeah. I think my impression of your journey has been one of, it's been broad. And I think sometimes we mistake staying with one thing is admirable, and it's the way that some people do. And I think that it would suggest depth, but not always, be a guarantee of it. I think for me, I know as a young man, what I decided to do was try and figure out what I didn't want to be, because I didn't know what I did want to be. And I just really appreciate your journey. I mean, it's been we haven't even really scratched the surface. I hope you'll come back and do another podcast.
I would love to.
I've really enjoyed today's conversation. Sensei, thank you so much for your time. I'm
Thank you.
going to give the final word over to you to do our farewell. And if you would, a word of advice for the new student just starting.
Be patient. And don't worry about trying to impress. Just think about learning, enjoy what you're learning. It's okay to ask questions. Hopefully you have a sensei that is open to that, because that's, I think, critical, is finding the right sensei. They don't have to be physically like Bruce Lee, but finding someone with a good heart, and openness, someone that you can trust, that can help you on your journey. I think that is critical. Don't just sign up at the first dojo that you see on the corner. Really do your research, know what you want, and know who you want to do that with, and the people there too. I think the culture in the dojo, is not only the sensei but everyone else in the dojo, is very important for the person's learning, the ability to learn, and continue to enjoy it.